And this camera can be controlled to 2 or 3 positions. I think this works.
Okay, pretty good. And now the PPT, they can see the screen. How can you see?
I think you can look at it.
Which one? Professor, which one?
Yeah, the top one.
This one?
Yeah, this one.
Very good. Great. Oh.
坐下了，找个位置，那好多。这里也可以，这2个位置也可以。好，那么时间也差不多了哈，我们就准备开始了。那么今天下午呢，我们非常荣幸的呢邀请到了 Professor Ryu 啊，他是南加州大学的教授，同时也是现在目前工作在上海交大跟南加州大学合作的一个创意产业学院里面啊，在进行这个工作。那么尤其是Professor Ryu 呢，还是这个学院的一个创始人，所以应该说在这个行业内还是有一定的影响力的啊。那么我们今天请Ryu教授来做的一个分享呢，是关于案例研究啊，关于案例研究。那么一方面，因为首先Professor Ryu呢，他是在这个 Sage 商业数据库里面是做一个主编的，那么所以他在这方面有一些非常有经验的一些个这个内容呢，可以向我们来进行分享。那么案例研究呢，其实对我们商科的学生来讲，它的意义是毋庸置疑的。我相信大家在学习过程当中都是有过这方面的一些接触的。那么如果我这是做一个不一定非常贴切的比喻的话呢，这个案例研究相当于是说我们作为学生也好，作为一个这个知识的传播者也好，那么在这个走进别人的故事当中呢，去站在别人的角度去分析问题，去解决问题，我觉得这是一个非常好的一个手段。那么如何能够更好的去领悟别人的故事，得到相关的管理的理论或者说是经验，那么如何甚至能够讲好我们自己的故事，来做一个更广泛的理论的一个传播，我觉得这对于我们所有商科的师生来讲，都是一个值得研究的一个问题。那么今天呢，我们就把Ryu教授请过来了。那么 Professor Ryu呢，是我们这个Dr.Hurry-ish 的一个非常好的朋友以及合作者，所以呢，下面的时间呢，就想先请我们的 Dr.Hurry-ish 来做一个关于 Professor Ryu 的一个详细的一个介绍，好吧？我们有请Dr.Hurry-ish。
Hello, everyone. So I think most of you see me for the second time, right? Or third time. This semester, I'm hosting like 3 or 4 talks. Okay, Ma. So feel free to join in all of this. Give you an idea about different areas, okay? So today, the main objective is for us to understand 2 simple keywords, okay, Ma? The keyword is ICCI, Institute of Culture and Creative Industry. Shanghai, inside Shanghai Jiaotong, there are many schools, okay? Many departments. ICCI is one of this department. It's very special. It's close to my heart. I work with them since 2017 in different projects. Okay, Ma. One of their projects that I like a lot is called the Xichang Rural Development Project. I was in this project. I go to Xichang in China to do some rural development, okay, several years ago. So anyway, so today Professor Ryu is an associate professor in ICCI. He will give us a talk and give a little bit of an outline of ICCI. So hopefully you can join their master or PhD program later in your life first. And second, he's also the editor of Sage. So he will give an outline about what is case study, how we can learn from case study, and how we can write a case study. Okay, so this will be like your entry point as young management students. So when you work in the company and you have a very interesting opinion, you don't need to write just a blog. You can use some data and write a case study, and it will be more impactful for the longer term. Okay, ma. So I introduced Professor Ryu, and so he can begin his talk now. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. Yeah, thank you for Dr. Zhong and Hurry-ish for the warm welcoming, and also thank you for having me today. So today I'd like to share about the business cases. So I'm working as the series editor of the digital entertainment series of the stage business cases. So I assume that we have many students and some the faculty member joining us online. So the better to focus on the more topic relevant to the student and the faculty as well. So today we will cover these topics on case method teaching, the why, what, and how we can write a good business cases, and step by step the business case and teaching note writing. And we may want to focus on the business case writing. Actually, for my course at ICCI and SJTU, so I have the one course that I collaborate with my students to write the business cases. And this is very helpful for students to understand the industry and the specific companies, and how you can understand and analyze a specific industry or company in the more systematical ways. And I may try give some tips and conventions in writing in publications. And if I have the time at the end of this talk, I will give us the basic introduction about our series. So there are two different the method or the models for educating the students. The first one is the lecture model. So what we are doing now. So I'm delivering lecture. So I have the content, and I try to deliver the content to students and the other audiences. And this is a lecture, the model, and it is very good way for transferring information or knowledge in a more efficient way, right? And it is about teaching what to think. Okay. On the other hand, the case method is about applying what you learned to the real practices. Okay. For example, we can see medical schools critical training. Suppose these medical students, they have knowledge, but if they don't have any practical experiences, so they cannot be a good doctor. Okay. It is very same for the business school students. If you have the good knowledge about business and management, but if you don't have any practical experiences, that should be a potential problem. And the case method that can be helpful for students to apply what you learned from classroom into the real practices. So from another perspective, we can compare the textbook and the business cases. So textbook present the principles and conclusions, and it usually explains the meaning of the concept. And also when we see the textbook, those content presented in very logical and sequential way. Okay, we just need to follow this sequence. On the other hand, the cases they present the information only. There is no principles or no conclusion. The making conclusion and identifying implication from cases, that is the role of the reader, the role of students to identify what we can learn from the cases. Okay, so basically when students read the business cases, they require to construct the meaning of a case by themselves. So sometimes we call the business cases as organize disorganization. Okay, so different information and different material scattered around different place of the case, and your role as student is to reorganize these different content and different information in more logical the way. That's like the big difference between like textbook and cases. So I really love this quote, the you need mountains, the long staircases don't make good hikers. So I believe that many of you are in this classroom that wanted to be a good manager or like the business leader in the future, right? So you need the real experiences for being a good the business and the management leader. And you can learn some knowledge or information from classrooms. That's right. So you need to take some the great courses offered by your school. But for being the business leader, you need the real experiences. And the business cases, even though they are not the real practices, it could give like some tips of the real experiences and real practices from the industry. So business cases could give this opportunity for students to experience in directive ways what is really going on in industry, what is really going on in this specific industry, these companies. That is the main purpose of the business cases in the business school setting. So the business cases is basically the package snapshot of an actual the management situation. Okay? So it presents a problem, the issue, and challenges, or opportunities faced by in the business and the management organization. And the case writer, the business case writer, should present this issue and problem or challenges in a vivid, the realistic, and convincing way. So every business case should contain those essential components. The first, a setting. It is about industry, where the case company play and their competitors. Those are like information about setting. Second, actors. So every business and management setting, we need the decision maker. Okay, so that could be a CEO of the company, or if there is the marketing problem, the CMO, the chief marketing officer, that could be a decision maker. So anyway, for any kind of the business cases, we need a decision maker and other stakeholders around this decision-making point. Okay, so you are expected to communicate with the different stakeholders and different people in the very same organization. Okay, for the very single the issues. That is the art of communication, and we should understand like different perspective from like different stakeholders, and that is the art of the business cases as well. Finally, this is the most important component, but those are three or the essential components. But the last one, the dramatic element, like the conflict, or like the managerial issues that the case company should solve. That is a very core of any kind of the business cases. Okay, so again, the main component, a setting, actors, and dramatic elements is like those essential components for any type of business cases. And business cases could be helpful for students to take the role of decision maker in the organization, right? So you try to put in the shoes of the decision maker in the case company, right? So you could be like CEO, or you could be like CMO, or you could be the manager for a very specific decision making point. So you are expected to think as if you are the decision maker in the case companies. And for the making a good, or sometimes better, or like the best the decision, you should be analytical. Okay, you collect those material information from the case, and you should be very creative, right? All the problem solving process, you need to be creative, right? So that is like the combination of the being analytical and the being the creative. Okay? And the forms and subject of cases could be very different. For example, like there are two different types of the business cases. And first one is the field cases. You really visit a company and you conduct interviews with the different people in the company, and you can collect materials, and now you can write down the business cases based on these interviews and materials provided by the company. Or you can write desk cases, which means you can like collect the data from the secondary sources, like from internet and from industry report and the news articles, from like different type of the second materials, like you can get some the understanding of the business and industry, and you can write the business cases based on those process. But either ways, like the really different type of business cases, the main purpose of the business case is quite straightforward, which is to represent reality and to compare situation with all its cross currents. So when we see these like the one issue and the one conflict of case company, and we can see these the very same issue from different perspective, right? From the marketing perspective, from the finance perspective, and from the operation management perspective, from different perspective, we can have like different interpretation. Okay, that's very natural things in the real the business management settings, and the business case is like to put the you to this situation. So you could see the one single issue of the case companies from like different perspective, and provide the analog of reality for the direct experience of businesses. Okay, so the ones you have the read the single the business cases, then you will have the better understanding what is really going on in this specific company and this specific the industry. So again, so let me give out like the items for the must-have items of the business cases. The first, significant business issues, and the purpose of these issues for like educational value. So in every single classroom in business school, like you will learn about the basic the marketing concept, for example, like finance and accounting topics, right? So you can learn these topics, you can review, and you can apply those learned knowledge into real cases. Okay, that is like educational purpose of the business cases, and sufficient information about the issues. So for the making a better decision, you need information in your life, right? In your study, so you need like sufficient information around like decision-making point. So the business cases should provide this sufficient information and material for helping students to make a better decision. And there should be no explicit or implied the right answers. The purpose of business case is not to give answer, to solve a specific issue. So rather than it provides like problem, right? It's a question. And then the role of students to read and analyze the business cases is to solve the problem presented by the business cases. And finally, a non-linear organization. So what I mean by a non-linear organization is that, like, again, the one issue from different perspective, right? So you can see like the one single issues from like different perspective according to like their background and their like department and their disciplines and so on. So we should understand how people to look at the very same issue from different perspective. So you are all the business school students, but when you graduate, when you meet different people from different background, that you will understand what the meaning of like the one issue from different perspective. You may see the very single issue very differently from the engineering major students and the humanism like the major like students and social science the major students. They look at the very same issue quite from different ways. So one of the purpose of the business case is to provide that there are very different type of perspective and opinions on the very same issues. Okay, then what is a good business case? They're like very simple and straightforward, like the component for writing a good business cases. The first, there should be an engaging story, right? So it should read like the novel or a fiction. Actually, it is the real story, but sometimes you realize the real story is much more fun than the fiction. So we see like the many interesting, the real happening and events like happen around our real life. And it's very same for the business cases. So it should include the very engaging story and different perspective in a balanced way. And it should be like short because if a case is like too long, it may bother like students in like different ways. So it should better to have like the short, but it should include very like comprehensive information around a specific issues. So I love the last part, the easy to read. So when you read the business cases, like good business cases, you can read this case, like the novel or a fiction, because it's like so fun. But after the reading the business case, like you should be quite confused. How we can solve this problem? And this problem is really like the critical. And if the company cannot solve this problem, like they should like shut down their business, like and so on, right? So should easy to read, but hard to solve the problem presented by the case. Okay, this is like another the list of the characteristic of a good case: ambiguous, the full of conflict, the leaves important issues unresolved, complex, allow multiple level of analysis, introduce a tension between alternatives of action. So for like some the business cases, they're like very clear the problem to solve. For example, like let's say the low profitability is a problem for this a single case company. And basically there are two potential alternatives to solve this problem of low profitability. The first is increase the revenue, right? The second is lower cost. There are like two the generic ways to solve the problem of the low profitability. Yeah, are you with me? So these like two alternatives like should be analyzed. Which one is much better for solving the specific issue, the confronting those the case company. So these like in this way, the business cases could provide like different alternatives and be analyzed by students. Okay, and with more questions than answers, and basically the business case like forces students to solve the problem because it is too urgent. If a company doesn't solve the problem, they should be shutting up the business. Okay, this is like a critical like problem that they confront. So let me give us some examples of the case with the good problem. So the first two examples basically is not a good, sort of bad examples of the case that with these ambiguous, I mean those like broader like questions. For example, which generations a company should target with its new product launch? Which international market a Chinese company should target? Okay, so it's like it's okay, but it's still like too broad and it's not that specific. So it may need the more comprehensive information to solve this problem. On the other hand, when we see these two questions, you might realize these two questions like more specific and more focused on the specific business issues. For example, whether Disney should strengthen the collaboration with major online streaming platforms such as like Netflix or like the YouTube, or to launch its own platform, okay, in 2019. So we know that Disney launched the Disney Plus, their own streaming platform. So I believe that is very strategic decision making, the forward decision. So they have like some conflict inside their organization, whether the Disney should launch their own streaming platform, or they could extend their collaboration with existing online streaming platforms. So this is very like specific, the focus. Or whether the Warner Brothers should postpone like one of the major movie studio, right, in the world, whether Warner Brothers should postpone the theater release of its next blockbuster movie or release it through HBO Max, their own online streaming platform, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so basically in the movie market, there are like a sequential distribution channels. The first, the blockbuster movie are released in the movie theater. The movie theater channel is very first, the window, and then the cable TVs and IPTVs and online streaming platforms and so on. But during the COVID-19 pandemic, the people couldn't go to the movie theater. Okay, that means the movie studio, they couldn't make the money, the revenue stream from the movie theater. So they should make a very critical decision to whether they should release the blockbuster movie through online streaming platform and the movie theater channels, right? So can you feel that pressure of the Warner Brothers? If they couldn't make the good decision, that the business they should be shrunken because they couldn't have the movie theater channel at that moment. So that is how we can make this a more specific and more focused the question and the case topic. Okay, then this is step-by-step business case and teaching notes writing, and this is the guideline that I use for my course at ICCI. So this is the basic step-by-step guideline how students can write the business cases for their course and for their so maybe the master thesis and so on. So as you can see, this is a very aggressive schedule, 8-week schedule for the writing the business case. The first week that you will spend prepare and make outline of your business case, and the next 2 weeks that you will spend to collecting data, and it could be different type of data collection method you can use. It could be the web search, or if you want to conduct the field-based case studies, and you are expected to visit the real company and conduct the real interviews with different peoples in the company, then you need to prepare the interviews and conduct interviews and so on. And if you want to conduct interviews, it should be the multiple times, at least twice, or more than 3 times, because you can collect more comprehensive data through this multi-round of the interviews. And then based on the data collections that you will write draft, it takes around 3 weeks, and the review and revision may take 2 weeks and more than 2 weeks. So again, this is a very aggressive schedule for writing the business case, and it can be extended to 16 weeks or 24 weeks according to your own schedule. But the portion of the task should look like this, right? The week for preparation and outline, in data collection 2 weeks, and just writing in 3 weeks. As you can see, the main part is data collection and the draft writing. Also, it is really important to have enough time to review and revise your materials. Okay, let me see these steps one by one. And for the preparation period, you will develop a case theme. Okay, this is very core of your case. Okay, and also you should think about how you can collect the data. Again, it depends on whether you want to choose the field-based cases or the desk study the cases. Okay. And identify the central theme of the case, and each case must have the definite teaching purpose in mind. Okay, so basically, the business cases should have the objective, the learning objective of students who will analyze the case. Okay. So whether this case can be used in the marketing course or the finance course or information management course, that you should think about which course or which lecturers can use the case. So you should keep in mind that which course or which module of the course that you can use with this new case. 3 common themes: a particular player in an interesting situation, a key decision, and specific organizational problem or issues. And those 3 common themes could be mixed together for the single case as well. If situation allowed, that you are expected to make a plan for the interviews. And this situation means that you will write the field-based case. Okay, you will visit the companies and conduct interviews, and you prepare in advance what kind of question that you will ask during the interviews. Okay? And you can use the form for a case research plan. Okay? Case research plan form consists of this type of the content. The most important thing, the first one is a case objective or focus. What the teaching objective or the what knowledge the students can learn from this case. Okay? The background information should include information about the industry, where the case company plays, and the history of the industry and history of those case company. Area of interest, the case company's like status, and the protagonist, which means the decision maker, the decision maker's background, and how he or she should make a decision that should be presented in the case, the material as well. Okay. And the third part is the core part of the business cases, the specific issue, the heart of the case, what is the main issue and the main conflict the case company confront at that moment. And you should provide the information or material around the specific issues, because this material should be delivered, because without this material, decision makers cannot make a good decision, right? So for making a good decision, you should provide detailed information and comprehensive material around these specific issues. The data collections, and for the web search, so I assume that you are quite familiar with like searching like the materials and industry report. Also, you can visit the company's like homepage, especially like investor relationship, like the website, IR website. Then you can access like many detailed information about the company, including like financial information and their business plans and so on. And for interviews, you are expected to develop the interview list, to which person and which stakeholders that you will conduct interviews with. And also you will have the potential question list. And it depends on the case focus and case topic, right? So you should ask questions relevant to the case topic and case theme. Okay. Draft writing, there are like 3 common frameworks. So let me emphasize the last one, the problem structure. The problem structure is to put the main issue at the very beginning and at the end. Okay. So basically this framework is to emphasize what kind of problem and what kind of issue and what kind of conflict the case company like confront at that moment. Okay. And every material like that should be presented around this specific problem. Okay. So with this approach, that you can have the engaging storyline, because it is like about this very specific problem, and the students can engage into that story because the problem is quite critical and severe, and if the case company cannot solve this problem, and that could be really like the big issue for the case company. Okay. And general structure follows this sequence. Opening section is like introduction. Okay, so introduction like very similar to abstract, but at the same time, this opening section should give like the clue, what kind of the problem the case company confront at the moment. And the second section is background information. So it is about the industry, which industry like they're like playing now, and what are the new trends, and like how's like the competitive landscape of this industry and so on. And also it includes the basic information about the case company, when the company was founded and how it was developed for the last years. And this information should be very helpful for students to understand the background of this case material about industry and about the competitors and about the case company itself. And area of interest, and it's like the structure is very similar to the funnel shape, right? So we start from the very broad information, and then we narrow down, like close to the case, the focus and the specific issues, right? The background information, industry and competitors, and the case, the company, and then the more specific issue that you should address through this case. Okay, that is like the area of interest. And finally, you will clearly indicate what is the problem? Okay, what is the problem that the students should solve as a decision maker? And then closing section should be very similar to the opening section, but you will present the situation of the case company in a little bit different ways. But basically, the content should be very similar to the opening sections, but you will present this coding section in quite different ways, in a more engaging way. Okay, so let me briefly skip this part. Okay, and finally, suppose you have like draft with this sequence, and the review and the revision is really the critical part. And what I do with this review and the revisions, I just bring my draft of each case to my course. And I distribute this case to my students and allow them analyze the case, or sometimes I allow them criticize the case material. So how I can improve the case, or whether like they like or dislike the topic of case, or whether they did learn something or nothing from the case, and so on. And this is a very good way to identify the room for improvement. Okay, so I usually like have 2 or 3 times of the revision, the loop. So I distribute the draft and get the feedback and revise based on students' feedback. And also I distribute the revised draft to my students again and get another round of feedback and so on. So this is really important, like the step for writing a good business case. Okay. Also, if you conduct interviews, I mean, if you like want to write the field-based case with the real company, it is a really important step to check the fact with the company, whether your case material like include like truth or fact. So this is really important step when you're writing the field-based cases. Okay, and the teaching note is not that relevant to students. Okay, the teaching note is for lecturer. The most of the cases, the good business case accompanies with teaching note. So teaching note basically is like document that provides a guideline how teachers and how lecturers use the materials, right? So most of the cases, the lecturers who employ the based teaching, so they don't use the business cases without the teaching note, because it is very hard to teach the cases without teaching note. So if you are like the faculty members, like online or in this classroom, you are expected to write the teaching note in addition to the teaching the cases. Okay. So basically, you should understand the purpose of teaching case and teaching note are totally different because audiences are different. The teaching case, its audience is students. Students will read the cases and they will analyze case from this learning perspective. And teaching note, the main audience like the lecturer, teachers, and it give out like some ideas and guidelines how they can use this teaching the case material for their courses and their modules. So for this purpose, it is really important for the writing the teaching note. So you are expected to give like step-by-step the guideline. So how, for example, how you can start class discussion at the very beginning, or how you can develop your discussion like as your class like the progresses, and finally how you can wrap up your case discussion and so on. So the teaching note should include this type of the detailed guidelines, how you can like manage your class with this specific teaching the cases. So those are like basic component of teaching note. The synopsis means like brief summary of the case and in conceptual context. So this should be very helpful for the potential teachers, lecturers, whether like they should choose this case or like different ones. Okay, teaching objective, it should be relevant to their course. Suppose that you are the marketing faculty who teach very basic the marketing concept, and you are trying to teach like the pricing of the new product, and then the lecturers may want to identify the business cases relevant to this topic, right? Pricing of the new product. And the teaching objective should clearly indicate whether this case include very specific teaching purpose. Okay, so that we can see the fit between teaching case and the objective of the course that those lecturers teach. Okay, target audience, whether this case is targeting undergraduate students or like the postgraduate students and so on, like different level of the difficulty and the different level of complexities. And this is the next one is the main content of teaching note, the case analysis and teaching plan. And basically it comes with the list of the case discussion question. Okay, so the most cases you will identify the list of discussion question at the end of the any type of business case. And basically teaching note should provide expected answer or expected discussion for each single of those discussion questions. Okay, reference or recommended the readings it should be helpful for like lecturer to provide this list after like finishing his or her like lecture about the teaching the case. Okay. Okay, so let me emphasize this important part, case analysis and the teaching plan. So again, this is the main component of the teaching note. And a common way to organize the teaching plan is there are like two like different approaches. It's quite interrelated to each other. The first is to draw a detailed roadmap of discussion questions. Okay, so basically, do you remember the teaching case itself has like the funnel, the shape framework. We start from the very like general and like those broader the context, and then we to narrow down this information provided by like those industry and competitors and case company and the specific issue of the case company and so on. And it's very similar to the teaching note. Okay, so we can start from those general discussion questions, right? So what is going on in this specific industry? And next, what is like the competitive landscape? How different players like playing the game with the specific case companies. Okay, and then the teaching note should provide how the lecturers can lead the discussion in classroom. Okay, so it should be very like step-by-step detailed guideline. So because without this guideline, some lecturers and some teachers may lose their way to lead this classroom with a very specific teaching case. Okay, but all the teachers and lecturers, faculty members, they should understand that asking a good question is really like the difficult task for any type of the faculty members, I believe. So I think that I have like this one slide about asking the right question, and basically what I'm doing. So for example, these undergraduate courses, it's really like challenging to lead like this in-class discussion with those undergraduate students, like especially freshmen and junior, like basically they don't have any idea about topic and about the concept. So it is really demanding task for the lecturers to have this open discussion in classroom, especially for the undergraduate students. So in this case, so what I like employ is that to like form a group of students, the first, and then distribute the case material to this student group and let them analyze the case before the assigned class. And then we assigned the presentation group the 4 is a single case, and we have the presentation session first. Okay, like just a 5-minute or 10-minute presentation from a student group. And based on their material, we can have like the small group discussions, and later like those open discussion as like the whole classroom. And in this approach, can manage like the better way, especially for the undergraduate like student courses. But most of the cases, the MBA courses or the executive courses, there is no like the big issue to lead like those in-class like discussion, because the most of the MBA students and executive students, like they are willing to share their opinions in classroom. It's quite different from the undergraduate courses. So depending on different characteristics of the classes, you can employ like different way of the leading discussion. So these are like art. Okay, there are 4 categories of questions. Question to prepare student for discussion. So this is like assignment questions. So I usually distribute the list of questions that the student should think about them before joining the assigned class. So that this is for like the promoting the in-class discussion. So like some like seed before each class, and question to open the discussion, and question to advance the discussion, and question to close the discussion. Okay, and it really depends on the way of type of the questions. So for example, open-ended the questions. For example, how do you think about this issue? Okay, so this is like type of open-ended question, and it is really helpful for like starting the discussion. Okay, the closed question is like a yes or no question. So in this case, we found that this information, this is correct or incorrect. Okay, this type of yes or no question is very helpful for like identifying or checking whether students have the good understanding of the context or not. The third one, the most like interesting question type from my perspective, the controversial question. Do you think that this is right or the other thing is right? Okay, this is like different, based on different value systems, right? Different like the perspective. Students have like quite different opinions on the very same issues. And with this type of question, like we can bring like some potential discussion, in-depth discussion about a specific topic. So it's really art. The asking a good question is really art during the class, and the lecturer like should equip this skill. How like the combine different type of the questions in different sequence in different ways, depending on the context of the classroom and depending on like the composition of students and so on. So let me to finish this writing the case the part in 5 minutes, and then let me briefly give an introduction about our like series, the digital entertainment, because like it is now open to the submission for the next year's edition. So I think it should be very helpful for you to get having like this information. Okay, those are like some conventions in case writing. A good teaching case is mostly short and concise. Like my suggestion is less than like 5,000 word count for the teaching case only, and always write a case in the past tense, because basically it's about like about what happened in the past. So in this regard, you'd better to avoid words like currently and presently. This type of the words should be avoided. So rather, you use like concrete time frames, like the specific like the month and the year. Use a single space, refers to actors by their last name, capitalize position title and number, exhibit, and refer to them in the text. So I didn't mention in details, but those the exhibit like figures and tables, with the different numbers and statistics, it's really the essential like material for any type of the business cases. You should provide this information for helping students to make better decisions. Okay. Teaching note, you should write in the present tense. It's quite confusing, right? They're like, because they are different purpose, like the teaching case and teaching note have like totally different purpose and like the different use. So we should understand like those different conventions. Okay, the length, no golden rule, but for most cases, the more and the merrier, because it could help like lecturers to be prepared, like the better the way. Okay. So as like case writer, I really think the writing a good teaching note is much challenging task, much more challenging task than the writing a good teaching the case. So it takes much more time and much more resource and much more ideas to write a good teaching note that can be helpful for the potential like teachers to teach like specific teaching case. Okay, those are like common pitfalls in writing a case, and so I do review like many like draft of the business cases. It's because I'm the series editor of like specific series, and I realize that this like mistake really like frequently happens. There's like no clear decision focus, or sometimes there are so many decision like forces. There's like a two extreme problem the many case draft have. The case has no clear structure. Do you remember like the most cases have like those funnel the shape from the general information to the narrowing down the specific issues. The case is not objective. So the case should be objective, and the role of the analysis and decision making is for students. The case writers, like, you don't need to make like recommendation or providing solution. Okay, the role of decision making and analyzing before the decision making is the role of the students. Okay. The case provides little context or too many details. Okay, so the user should find like sweet spot between like the little context or too many details. The case has no actors. There should be at least one actors who are making a decision for the case company. So it could be founder or it could be CEO, but it's much better if you have like different stakeholders with different perspective, so that the students can understand that those complex like the environment of the business and management settings. Dramatic interest or issues, or there's a like problem if the situation is too dramatic. Again, it's like the finding sweet spot between no conflict and no issues, no problems, and too much complex and like too much problems. So basically, it is really good idea to have the one specific problem and one specific issue. That should be like the best for the most of the business cases. The case is technical or theoretical because this is not the great. So the technical papers, there are the academical, the case study, right? So we know like we publish papers in academic journals, but business case is like totally different from these academic case studies. So we should understand this is more practical oriented cases. So let me skip this part so can save the tips. Okay, so I think that this should be the last part. I think I'm okay with sharing this slide with our faculty members later. So let me briefly introduce this my series, Digital Entertainment. So it is open to any submission relevant to the topic of digital entertainment. And students can submit their cases to the Sage business cases. This is like the one difference between Sage and the other like the case outlet. So our series objectives aim to explore all issues related to the business and management of diverse digital entertainment domains. So what I mean by the digital entertainment, those are some examples. Online video streaming, Netflix, like in China, Bilibili and Tencent Video, and then Douyin, TikTok, and the music streaming. So we have the Spotify in global context. So we have Ladies and what else in China? I don't know. The podcast. Himalaya, or we have like different like audio platform in Chinese context. And the video computer games, esports, the VR and AR, digital heritage, the virtual museum, like the smart speakers, those are like the digital entertainment. So very different contexts, but very different examples. Basically, it contains like the component of digital entertainment. People like enjoying, like making fun with these objectives. So some possible like topic areas for this series: creating better customer experiences in digital entertainment context, digital entertainment marketing, the revenue model and pricing of digital entertainment product. So as you can see here, these topics are like quite specific. So, and the context should be like different, but those focus of the discussion should be very specific. For example, like the pricing and the revenue model. This type of the topic is really interesting topic that you would like to welcome to our case series. And also the business models of digital entertainment and the digital transformation of traditional the entertainment or the media part. And it is really like a big theme in Chinese market, I know. So this like case in this topic should be very interesting topic for our series as well. So this is important information. So we have very like the specific timeline. So for the 2024 edition, which will be released in the January the next year, 2024, the form deadline is August 31, the end of the August. And I prefer to the short cases, okay, between the 1,000 to the 5,000 words, but basically like around 2,000 the short cases should be much welcome for this series. Okay. And it should include discussion question and teaching note. And there is like no word limit for teaching note. Again, the more and the merrier for the teaching note. Okay, open to any country, industry, and company type, unless if there's like any digital entertainment component like the combined. Okay, and for more details, you can visit the homepage for the series. Thank you for listening. That's quite like look same.
So first, I think I want to thank you for the amazing talk. One thing I really liked from your talk is you said, "Oh, I write a case, I take it to my classroom, I ask the student, review, discuss." I think this is something I will personally follow. You know, I think so. So again, thank you again, students, for attending this lecture. Okay, I just give you a summary. Okay, so the basic idea is I can see that most people are finance guys. Okay, let's take an example. Okay, like recently in the Western world, there's something called a FIRE, F-I-R-E, financial independence and retire early. Okay, it's a hot topic, really hot topic. You open any social media other than the Chinese social media, right? The Western social media. FIRE, everybody's talking about, everybody wants to retire at 40. Okay. So now, as a finance guy, you can ask a question like people who retire at 40 and achieve FIRE, are they happy in their 60s? Okay, this is the question. Okay, people now have your attention. Okay, now you can go to people in 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, talk to them, write this data, and write a report, and then you can submit to a case study forum, and then you can see what is the feedback. Okay, now you get some advantage by doing this. First, you can marketing your writing skill and your personal branding. Okay, say, oh, this guy not only can think but also can write. Okay, and then you can get to know a subject deeply. Okay, once it's published, people like us who teach in the school will say, hey, this student talked about FIRE. Everybody says, oh, retire at 40 is good. But this student says, in Shanghai, this may not be a better idea, or this is a good idea. Okay, you see that whole life cycle? You have an idea, you collect some data, and you publish, or you send to a forum, and like this. Okay? So this is broadly what Professor has been talking about. Okay? There are some parts to this. How to basically this is down. So I think it's an excellent opinion overall. So any questions from you guys? Okay. 老师的中文非常 OK。So,
I think it's ours. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty good question, and it really depends on the your course's objective. And the most of cases, like the one case for one session, is recommended because to be that approach, you can have the more focused discussion about the very specific field. But I know like sometimes some different lecturers like they bring like 2 or 3 multiple cases very same patient. For that case, and those cases quite relevant. I mean, especially for the different cases for the one case company, different timeline. Okay, the way that these like the set of the cases, the way you could see like how these specific case companies evolve. Right? So that is like the one the potential like the approach that you want to really focus on the specific company. But in general, my suggestion is you will have the one case for the one. For most cases, we have is conceptual like lecture session first. What we learn from the session, then we have case teaching, the case teaching. Then the way that this students can try to apply what they learn from this lecture to the real case, the real case. Right? This is another quite traditional or conventional approach with case. There's another good question, and it's quite different from my perspective. It was review process of the vision cases. From my perspective, more comfortable than the review process of the academic paper. Based on my own. And also for these days, for the vision cases, the review and the review process, there are like a lot of the effort on those like editing, copy editing, because the main audience is the students that the research for. Right? So the academic articles we have very like specific form and those we use like specific font, right? But for the business cases, they are targeting the more general public or like practitioners that those researchers. So it takes more resource and effort on the reviewing and revising the readability or the flow of the like so there's a process, review and revision process where yeah, contribution is like rather as like specific teaching outcome. There is like sort of contribution. Like, so the teaching outcome is clear.
Is our assistant.
So Dr. Mohan, recently Professor Ru published a Harvard Business Review, HBR, and in this he asked a very simple question. How many days before you collect feedback from people? Like for example, someone comes to your restaurant, eat something, right? How many days? What is the golden time to ask them for review? Ask immediately, come to, oh, okay. And then ask too late, they don't even remember, right? It's too old, right? What is the golden number? Is Simple question. What's the best time to ask for a review? It sounds very simple, right? But it's actually quite complex. So he and his team figure out this golden number using a case study, okay, and then they publish it in Harvard Business Review. And it's very interesting. If you don't read this, if you like to read this kind of, ask me and I will send the HBR on the case study. Right? So, yeah. Any other questions? Next.
Yeah, I think it's quite like flexible and open and any topic relevant, digital entertainment conference fine. But again, anyway, it should follow very the basic frame, basic guideline of and case company, the one technical validations and a very specific case focus, decision maker, and like relevant information from the field around. If you follow these basic framework guidelines, we have that should be like enough for attention. Yeah, students writers, okay, but my suggestion is we do that one method. But in most of the cases, the other the business case outlet, they don't allow like have student author. But before this series and this publisher, like students can co-author or viewership would be really author with that. That's
So I have an interesting point here. Sage actually pays people whose case studies are published.
Yeah.
Really, really. So if you write a case study, they will give you some feedback, you revise it, blah, blah, blah. And eventually, when it's published, they will pay you money to write this case study. Sage is so special. No other forum, like conference or journal, does this kind of reward mechanism for writing cases. So yeah,
there are basically two different types of business competition. If I define them, the first type is the writing competition, right? The writing. I assume that your question is about case analysis.
no, so they want our school also has a writing business competition.
Okay. Okay. Let me answer both. Writing cases. I think it's usually important to have interesting topic. Interesting like case company. So what I mean by interesting topic in case company, if your case company is like too popular, I mean everyone knows like about this company, then that's not choice. If like nobody knows company, that's another like bad choice. Like very like a bit, somebody knows about this company, but not that much. That is a really good spot about it. It's yeah. So about this the case focus, it is really important to have like clear and like we focus case topic so that the lecturers or the courses with a specific objective like easily choose like these like the lecturers and different courses and that leverage with case topic for their course. That is a really important. Right? Yeah. And for the case analysis part, again, the case analysis is basically the combination of the being analytical and the being creative. So these are two. It seems like those like being analytical and being creative is like quite conflict together, but actually they are not. So basically, the way you're analyzing the problem, the way you define the problem, you should be very analytical. You fully leverage like different material information provided by the case company. Okay? At the very beginning, you should be very analytical. So once that you have identified a core problem of this case company, and this is like fun to be very creative. So like a new perspective, new approach that goes like executive members of this company haven't thought about it before, right? The new perspective when the problem solving. So every type of problem solving consists of problem identification, identifying problem, solving the problem. So when you analyze case, first part, problem identification, which is very analytical. And when you suggest solving, the problem solving, and then you should be very creative. And then you could like provide very creative ideas that nobody like thought about it before. And these two parts totally link each other. Right? It's like three analytical, creative, these parts like both. Okay, so so the presenting case analysis like quite different from the writing. And basically, there are two different ways of communication. So when you writing case, it is like starting from data collection, data analysis, and digitize like good finding, finally. But at the end of this case analysis, when you present, when you like communicate your final outcome, and it's quite opposite way. So you start from the message. Okay, so you start from your finding, your vision, your message first, and then the data at the very end. Basically, you don't need to mention of the data itself during your presentation, but once there's like a question comes out from the audience, then you can like mention of data. Okay, but basically during your presentation, you should focus on the message. How you like to recommend solve problem with like very two different ways of fighting or analyzing case and present.
So I have a question. So for students who want to read some case from Sage, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say they have a case study. So what is the model? Is it available for free or should our school subscribe? How does it work?
Yeah, subscription model like school subscribe the service and your students can access free.
So let's imagine some students are from the rural area, okay? Their school doesn't have that. Okay? So as an editor, as someone in the forum, can you support them or what kind of mechanism?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the those editor of this from like Sage side, like they have like some policy, but yeah, I'm not quite sure. But the basic model is like subscription model. Like if school subscribe is like the outlet, then all students in school like they download and read case.
So the point here is it's not free to read most of it. You can get one or two for free, but then you have to pay like some money to start to read these things. Okay? So that's why if you go to the big business school like Harvard, they'll have a class that says case study based, just for fun, because they have that kind of funding to download hundreds of case studies. The professor only will teach all the lessons based on it. But smaller schools cannot do this. But again, let's see how the things change in the future, because everything is changing. Yeah. So any other questions? Please feel free to write down professor's email address. Okay? And I hope next semester, right, to take you to ICCI in Shanghai. Because as you know, Shanghai is like second home to me. I did my postdoctor there, PhD in China, so both of them are home. So I want to take our students there. Maybe have a half a day lecture, or maybe half class here, half class there. This is my hope. Okay. So I want to try this. So any questions, please feel free to come back. Me and Professor Ryu will have a late lunch. Okay, catch us in the canteen. Ask any questions. Okay. Yeah. Oh, any questions online?
Say.
Oh, excuse me. Okay. No. So thank you again. So thank you all. Any questions, please feel free to stop. Zhong Lao, any points? Okay, 谢谢你们了。
Thank you.